And we just go, are we going to go Facebook too, or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, we got him here. We get ready. Oh, okay. No. I was just going to go start, and you could pop in whenever. No, but you're here. Okay, real quick, we're going to do the Biden reversing. We're going to pick up the more with Trump. Talk about that a little bit more if you want to.
Okay.
You got some more?
No, I got some.
And then the Fauci now saying things that that would have got us canceled.
We're live on social media.
Okay, we're live right now?
Yeah.
How long we been?
Maybe like 30, 40 seconds.
Okay.
So
You just run through the layout of the show.
I'm glad I don't cuss in private either.
Yep, right. Jose, is there a way
they
that I
left.
could plug my laptop
we were
in
about
over
to
here?
start without you.
Yeah.
Jose,
Huh?
never mind. I was going to say my laptop charger, but down here.
There's no outlets. There's one way over there. You got a cord long enough?
Maybe. I don't
There's
know if
an
I got the
outlet.
time.
There's an outlet right next to Alan by his foot right there.
Okay, I know Facebook's all like having a good time with this.
Are they?
No, I'm just saying. Yeah.
Facebook folks always have a good time with everything. And Laura, if you're listening, thank you for sending all that information on the Build Back Better bill. You actually read that. You astonished me, young lady. Okay. You see where our president did a 180 on the mandates that the federal government does not have the solutions to COVID? Funny the things you say in a campaign. That goes for Republicans too. I know. I hear you, my Democratic folks that watch. I respect you so much. And Sue called us up just a while ago. You had some good points, great points, and we just got to stop getting so triggered that when we hear something that we don't agree with, that we just want to end the discussion and get so mad. I mean, it's not about making the other person believe what you believe before you can work together or have an intelligent discussion or a worthwhile discussion. And usually that goes hand in hand. Anyway, we just got to all do our little bit to bring that civility back, to disagree without being disagreeable. And we got a great show on the network with Larry Powell called Powell to the People. In fact, what's one of his basic tenets is, having a discussion, and sometimes contentious discussion, if you will, and not get personal. Don't start calling people names and
All right.
losing
we
your
can start
cool,
whenever you guys want.
stomping out of the building, stomping out of the meeting. People like to do grand exits, don't they, when they get ticked? Drop the mic, slam their fists down, and walk out.
But
What
I've
the
been
heck
seeing
did-
that. I've been seeing that too, more
Yeah.
so.
What does that prove other than you're closed-minded, quick-tempered, and totally nullified yourself as a voice in what you were discussing as a go-to? Reagan never did that. And all these people want to be Reagan. They want to be John Kennedy. Those guys were cool as a cucumber in the face of disagreement. Reagan was one that says, hey, if I can get somebody to agree with me 60% of the time, are we 40% enemies or 60% friends? It makes sense to me. How about you, Madam Wise and Wondrous One?
Bringing civility back. I'm all for it, but
you had great debates back in the day, but people actually got face to face and did it. So I think, what would be interesting? We'll talk about that. We're ready to go.
we should have Joe Rogan do all of our stuff, like have him as a mediator, because both sides kind of love him at the moment.
Yeah, that'll only last for the next issue. You're only the darling from one issue to the next.
He's the number one podcast
like
in the
quarterback.
country. Well, he's the number one podcast. He'd be a very interesting.
It's my old quarterback scars in me. You're only good as your last game, believe me, or your last play.
Huh? All right.
Yeah,
That's the
Tom
wisdom
Brady-
that you can bring. I'm a college
Tom
athlete.
Brady
a
would
professional.
go from goat to bum if he threw an interception that cost the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the Super Bowl. All these guys, he's the greatest ever. Because you know why? This is the gamblingest country on the face of the earth. Everybody's going to have a bet on the Super Bowl. If it's Brady,
I'm going to disagree. Even
There we go. Jose Monroy Show.
So I
Welcome
baited
back.
you in. I fished out there and I got you there.
No, even if Tom Brady loses the Super Bowl because of his own fault, he's still gonna be the GOAT regardless.
I'm with Jose.
Now, what would you say to Aaron Rodgers fans? What would you say to Joe Montana fans? Who won 4
Aaron
Super
who?
Bowls.
Oh.
Ooh, them fighting words of the pack.
I know. You know what? One Super Bowl. No, I'm playing. No, I know the fans. I don't want to. Green
You
Bay
know
played
who's
a great
left out
game.
of
last night.
discussion on great quarterbacks, the GOATs? John Elway. He went to, I think, 5 or 6 Super Bowls, won 2, and took like 3 or 4 mediocre teams all the way to the Super Bowl. That man was a great, great quarterback. I think he's in a discussion of the GOAT. If you're doing GOAT just by Super Bowls, you could say that one of the best, it was the defenses of the New England Patriots that were as much a part of winning those Super Bowls as Brady.
Yeah, but it's always whoever's leading the play caller. You know.
Yeah, they get too much credit when you win, too much blame when you lose.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Let's get this show on the road.
From NFL quarterback to Hollywood to the mayor's office, and now behind the mic at KXEX, this is the Alan Autry Show. No retreat.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What the hell's going on out here? Everybody grabbing out there. Nobody. That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So, 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable. Free at last! Free at last! Thank God
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX. Call Alan now, 559-899-1550.
Hey, and welcome to Alan Autry No Retreat. I'm Mo Alan Autry along with Matt White. We're so honored and humbled to have you with us today. Let's get this show on the road. Before we continue the talk from yesterday about whether Trump should run again, we got a little bit of response on that little question yesterday, didn't we, Matt? Before we do that, though, I've been asked, in the gym, I hang out at the gym. If you don't know, I spend a lot of time there, just grocery store, just have a lot of friends, I just love people and so blessed to have a lot of friends, some close friends, some casual friends, but I don't diminish a friend's a friend, and I value them all. And I've been asked more than once here on this, about this January 6th commission. I have not discussed it at all on this show, but Matt, I think we do need to just give a little bit of time to this. I think it's such a sham. And this is not from a partisan point of view. I swear to you folks, it's not. If I felt you could get to the truth, that there was something that would jump out, Matt, at us through this investigation, so-called investigation. But Matt, the Department of Justice investigated, the FBI investigated. They have all the records. What is Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger in that group? You kicked Jim Jordan off. You kept the folks on there that could really make it a bipartisan and effective inquiry. And so you got this stacked deck trying to find what?
I just say political theater at this point. It's kind of like the whole much of the COVID situation. It's just political theater for the news hits. It's something to kind of attract media attention to something that happened, to kind of continue to kind of, I guess, marginalize conservatives further and further out of the public sphere. I think that's kind of the play here.
And is it not, I like to go to the theater. I like entertaining plays, but this is like bad, boring theater. I think people, as you said, see right through this, especially people on the left. Especially people on the left. I think they want to get at more vulnerable areas at the president and go at him in a more effective way because we are in the election year. We have midterms coming up in less than a little over 11 months. There's just nothing there. I just happen to think personally, a lot of these Congress people, they enrich themselves after office. And that's a rather new phenomenon in American politics. There really wasn't a big payoff. Now, after you're in office, you get appointed to boards if you do the right thing, and you get bought off by the right corporations. You give speeches, and you can be a contributing analyst on the different networks. And I think that, quite honestly, I think Liz Cheney, one of the reasons, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, leading the way, I think they already have been offered parts as contributing voices on CNN, just like what these folks do, pointing up Cheney's. Okay, Matt's pointing at the television screen up there, and yeah, there's some.
It's in practice right now. We were just talking about it.
Yeah, well, January 6th is right around the corner, so they're going to be hitting it real hard. I just don't, as I say, is there any there? I just don't. It's just silly. It's a waste of time. But sometimes, as a politician, you can do something so silly for too long, so you're backed in the corner. Instead of just wrapping it up and letting it go, you got to see it to the end, risking looking totally, completely silly, and really basically undermining any chance you have of landing on one of these boards, of being a contributing voice to one of these networks and making a lot of money. But yeah, on that, it's just interesting today. I was looking up at the screen, and they did a CBS poll. And the CBS poll, obviously, you got the left-leaning media. They're trying to find something that they can highlight in this poll. CBS, mind you. It's not a Fox poll. And the headline was 68% believe that democracy is being challenged. That's the question. But then they broke it down in reference to January 6th. And they said it here, as they broke it down by party, and they said that 41% of Democrats believe that the breaking in of the Capitol was representative of all Trump voters. Now follow me on this. 41%. So they're highlighting that. Well, 68% think it's just our democracy's under attack. Not from the left or the right. They don't tell us that. But total, and I agree, our democracy's under assault. From the left, big time. But then they said that 38% believe that those engaged that went into the Capitol itself, the knuckleheads that did that 38% believe it was not representative of the typical Trump voters. Okay, you follow me on this? Now here's the key. 21% believe it was left-leaning people that went into the Capitol. So you have 41% that believe that those that broke into the Capitol, the guy with the Viking outfit and all those guys, silly people taking selfies and all that stupid nonsense, 41% think it was representative of of all Trump voters. But when you add that 38% and 21, you have 59% either believe that it was not representative of all Trump voters, or that it was some left-leaning folks that went in there just trying to stir people up, Antifa and that sort of thing. I think that is really eye-popping. Nearly 60% of the people are saying this is not representative of a Trump voter. Do you find that kind of on a CBS poll?
Oh, yeah, I find it big time, especially because we read headlines. Headlines have a lot of power in this country because most people don't take the second look to read an article even really in depth, and a lot of them end up refuting themselves within it. But it is surprising to an extent, but I know it's something that the left continues to bring up. And we knew when it happened, I remember this is not going to be good because they're going to continue to play this out every single year for an election cycle.
What surprises me is this is a CBS poll.
Yeah.
And you know where I'm going with this. You know, they didn't survey 91% Republicans or even independents. They surveyed a lot of Democrats. And out of that demographic, you have 59, nearly 60% saying that's not representative of Trump. I see that as a real, probably, in my opinion, my old mind, the way it works, one of the more positive polls for this country coming back to common sense and starting to move back to some bipartisanship that I've seen in a long, long time. Because you know what the Fox polls and the CNN polls. And I will say Fox polls, I believe, are much more fair and balanced than the CNN polls. And you can just go and spend, like you said, Matt, you can spend several shows on breaking that down.
So I love this. It was on the Don Lemon show a couple of weeks ago, and I think it was right around the Christmas season. And I loved how they were like, gas went down 3 cents, but the way that they had put the graph up on the screen, they only showed like a week or two, right, of the numbers counted. But then you look and you pull the graph back for the whole year, and it was like, oh my goodness, gas is still tremendously up, and it was 3 cents, just kind of like, Thanksgiving too.
Oh yeah, it was 16 cents.
16 cents he saved on Thanksgiving.
That you saved by their math.
Yeah, and honestly, it surprises me with the way that they run the media. It's like, what are they even? They'll stretch it that little bit.
So let me just make my position clear, and I probably, notwithstanding some major development that comes out of these hearings, I've said pretty much what I'm going to say on it. I just don't think it's worthy of our attention. We've got the COVID thing that we're dealing with, the shutdowns, government trying to overreach again. You have Putin on the doorstep of the Ukraine, and Biden deciding to make a standoff with him like he's going up against the Taliban. He doesn't realize that this guy has more nuclear weapons than we do. So you're going to play really hardball with him while you run with your tail tucked between your legs and run from the Taliban. Makes no sense. We've got a lot of big issues out there. And again, if the DOJ hadn't investigated this January, I wanted an investigation. But I wanted a real investigation, a real nonpartisan investigation, because I wanted some answers. It's crazy what went on with some of the folks there. Not representative of all those there by any stretch of imagination. But you have the FBI. They've got all those cell phone records. They did their investigation. They said there was no big plan that emanated from the White House, that Mark Meadows and the president, along with the Devin Nunes and whatever, encouraged all of these folks to come and break into the Capitol. It's just freaking ridiculous. So move on. And again, I'm going to leave a caveat in this as I do move on. If there's something that comes out, I'm not above admitting I was wrong. If we get a piece of information that comes out and there's a tape of Donald Trump saying, go riot. If you love America, go riot in that Capitol, go break in, or Mark Meadows, then I would say, hey, I'm wrong. I'm not above that. But goodness gracious, we have so many, pardon me for using this little cliche, but we have bigger fish to fry. I swear to never say. But we do. We've got bigger fish to fry in this country than this commission. Okay, but get ready for the onslaught, because the anniversary of the insurrection is coming up January 6th, and that's all you're going to hear on CNN and CBS and so on and so forth. Mr. Matt, we see that Joe Biden's had a little change of heart. Have you heard about that, folks? Remember the Joe Biden during the campaign that said he was not going to shut down the economy? He was going to shut down the virus. He was. The federal government was. Donald Trump had killed millions of people because he did not institute the federal government solution that he had, that Joe Biden had. He had the solution. Didn't tell you what it was, but he had it. He had written on a little piece of paper in there. He had the solution. And once he became president, he was going to institute that solution, and we were going to be done with COVID, and it was going to be he and the federal government that rode in like the cavalry and got rid of COVID. Now, Jose's got a little soundbite that I think this is Joe Biden saying something a little bit different. Got that?
make sure that we do not let federal solutions stand in the way of state solutions.
Look, there is no federal solution. This gets solved at a state level, and it ultimately gets down to where the rubber meets the road.
All right. You heard it right there. No government solution. Matt, what do you make of all this?
Well, it's typical. I think at this point they've run out of different ideas, and I think it's kind of funny because they're like, "Oh, we're just going to continue to throw variants out there." But I think a lot of people are like, "Okay," like we were talking about it last week, last year actually. We were talking about this now this week, but about like having the Omicron variant, a blessing because of its stuff. But yeah, again, Biden reversing. It's not surprising.
I want to ask you, as a young man, you're inheriting this country. You and your age group, very close to these leadership positions. How does he get away with this? To say what he just said after what he said before. He's saying that. Did you hear the tone of voice? It was almost condescending, going, "Hey, what did you ever think that I could stop it? How could you ever have such a random, crazy thought that this virus could be stopped at the..." Well, Mr. President, because you said you were going to mandate 100 million workers had to be tested, and if they weren't tested, that the virus was going to continue to multiply and kill people, but if you instituted it, people were going to live. Now you're saying that's not your responsibility. You're not going to mandate that, and you're going to pass the buck to the states, which you should have done all along. But how does he get away with just of not saying, you know what, I know what I told you, and based on the information that I had, I feel really strongly that we had some things we were going to do with the vaccination, that vaccinations were going to mean you couldn't get it and you couldn't pass it on. Now we know both of those are not true. You can get it if you're fully vaccinated, and you can pass it on. How does he? Well, maybe he doesn't because his approval rating is down to 33%. Maybe he doesn't get it.
Well, two things: mainstream media and then big tech. The controllers of information, these institutions are just as big as our government, or even have more power than government. Information, data, and we look at Twitter's like what plus 30 if it was a state. It's just out there. It's just continues to circulate. And one thing I think I love, or not love, but something that I see the Democrat parties do really well is they throw stuff out in the news, like a big headline toward the end of the week, and so by the time Monday comes around, it's old news. So they kind of do those bombshells. And then it's kind of like, all right, right on to the next topic. And it's kind of, okay, now we're talking about January 6th. Look what the Republicans did. It's always a psyop. It's always something to distract you.
Let me ask you a loaded question. From your perspective as a young man, how old are you?
22.
Oh, from your perspective, what you know about your generation, is there a premium in your generation placed on virtue when it comes to a leader? Meaning honesty, integrity, saying what you mean and meaning what you say? Or is it the ends justify the means, depending on, what issue it is? That if it's okay to mislead, deceive, lie to people, if it's, give me your take on the value your generation places on those virtues, those character traits.
Well, very much of my generation, as we call it, I think the new nickname is the Zoomers, Gen Z, the Zoomers, kind of moving forward. And a lot of my generation is very much short-term minded. So whatever kind of gets the benefit, there's just been entitlement that's been instilled among young people, among my age group and younger, that everything should be done a certain way. And I think that's why people like AOC are attractive to young leftists. It's like, oh, I'm going to get free college. I'm going to get this and this and this, all this stuff that the Democrats, these big packages, the stimulus checks. I remember everybody was kind of like, oh, I get $1,200 and I don't even have to work.
Oh, you've got to build that into the gas tank 15 times over.
Well, yeah, and young people, they look very short term. And I'm not saying for young people, I would say as young conservatives that are going to eventually take this country back and take it in the right direction. But most of Gen Z, in terms of this generation, they're really short term. If they get what they want, then it's good.
So am I correct from your perspective and your opinion of saying not just Republicans, but you interact with people of different political persuasions in your age group, is it safe to say that your generation by and large says, I don't really care if you're lying to me as long as you give me my stuff?
Very much so, and it's because we've taken God out of everything. It's very much a secular worldview, and people expect young people, or at least young people, decide, hey, as long as you, like you said, give me these things, then I'll be happy. But sadly, those things that they're promising don't ultimately make you happy at all.
You know, I'm an independent. I'm not picking on Democrats or Republicans. I just happen to think right now, Republicans have more principles and values and policies that work better in a democracy. The left have policies that work better in a Marxist regime. The goals are completely different. But I look at the statements that are made by some of the Democratic leaders. One comes to mind that I just pondered, Matt, when I heard it, watching it, and it wasn't taken out of context, and it was from Nancy Pelosi. Here's a senior leader of the Democratic Party, the highest position you can go in terms of the House of Representatives, Speaker of the House. When confronted with things that were said during the campaign, that promises during the Obama administration that were not kept, and some promises here that the Biden administration has not kept, and also things she had said, the promises that weren't kept. Well, a lot of times she evades those questions and just swats them away, but for some reason she didn't. I thought she was going to just not answer it. That's a tough question. You're being held accountable.
We'll circle back on that.
Yeah, I'll circle back on that. But she said something that just astounded me. She said, well, you know how campaigns are. You can say whatever you want. I mean, it's about getting elected. And man, I thought to myself, yeah, I understand that's probably true. Too many cases than I'd want to admit, but that was never said back in the day. You never went and said so nonchalantly, that's just the new rules of the game, so we're going to keep lying to you. You're not going to hold us accountable. It's just the way things are. I don't hear Republicans saying that. Even those that know they at least they have the ideal there that may be barely hanging on to that concept of an honest public servant that's willing to be honest and be accountable and not lie during a campaign. And you look back at the guy they call the big lie personified, who kept just about every one of his promises. Now, I know that's going to tick some people off because I went out and I said Trump should run. And you go, Alan, how can you go over there and say he's honest, he kept his promise? Very easily. I'm being very analytical when I say this.
Yeah, he broke the number one promise in D.C., which was keep your promises. It's kind of the establishment. And that was why when 2016 rolled around, people were like, I'm so tired of the political jargon. I'm tired of the establishment. I'm tired of the status quo. And back to what you said is Republicans try to grasp this concept that, okay, I think we can still play on the means of the Constitution, but the left goes, we don't even care about the Constitution. That's not even a thing. We're just going to keep moving forward, taking over institutions, and we know the Republicans and conservatives aren't going to fight back. Yeah, so we can lie all we want, and there's no retribution at all for it.
No doubt about it. I mean, you see it clearly that the younger generation has really not embraced the separation of powers, of equal powers, judiciary, the legislative, and the executive branch. They have put all their faith in the courts. Why? Because you make the law up as you go. If you don't have the court is not there to interpret the Constitution, that you only know what the law is going to be when that judge makes the ruling, then you don't even have laws. And that's exactly what they want.
Amen.
Hey, we'll be right back. This is Alan Autry. No retreat. Don't you go away.
Oh, yeah, Angie, I love that comment. Accountability and common sense went out with the bathwater. Yeah, no, that's very true. Get by real quick. There we go. Yeah, no, that is very interesting. And yeah, no, Laura has a good point. Republicans lie just as much as they just don't admit it. Yeah, they lie just as much, and 100% agree with you on that in terms of the way politics is especially, I think I would personally say more of the establishment side in terms of that statement, because they all have to make sure that their buddies are taken care of in Congress, and it goes for the Democrats as well. And I believe that the Republicans, establishment Republicans and Democrats for a long time sold out to the American people. So yeah, there we go. Pat again, both sides lie. Yeah, they do. And that's why when Trump, I believe, came in, it changed the way, broke the number one rule. There we go. Some other comments in there. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I know Alan's on a quick break. Jose back there in the studio. How you doing, Jose?
All good by here.
All doing good. Watch any football over the weekend? Jose, my predictions were way off.
I only care that Tom Brady won, so.
Are you really a Brady fan? I know Alan had talked about that.
I am. Whoever team he's in, I'm a fan.
Oh, really? Tom Brady loyalist.
Jose like Brady?
Yeah, he said any team that Brady's on. Yeah.
That's good looking. He's still good looking to be that good. Well, I tell you, 7 Super Bowls speak for itself. It's hard to make a good case against him as the GOAT, really is.
On the road for the 8th one.
All right. He's got to go through Green Bay. Can he play in the cold weather? I don't know. All right.
Oh, we got the comments. Love Jose on there. Debbie commenting. I love it.
Debbie
Stickler.
Yes. How you doing, Deb? Love you guys. Have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you, Matt, lately that I care?
Oh, thanks, Alan.
You're welcome. From a boomer to a zoomer. Man, you gotta give me more faith in the zoomers. Okay.
Oh, we're getting the music.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX.
And welcome back to Alan Autry No Retreat. All you radio folks, you're missing out, man. I'm hitting there doing the robot. Remember the robot? Huh? Yeah, I'm still doing it. So I'm get out of breath. Yes. Oh, Facebook posts. Oh, all right. Joe Biden. We were talking about Joe. Oh, Sleepy Joe, or whatever you want to call it. I feel bad. No, and I know what people get on. I get it from the right and left being independent. I said, can't I feel like sorry for a guy and hold him accountable at the same time? Well, yes, I can. Can I feel sorry for a guy, our president, and feel more sorry for our country? Yes, I can. But the man, goodness gracious, you know, we talked about government solution to the COVID, Matt. We were just talking about that in the last segment. Comes around and just flipping and going, whatever gave you the reason to believe that I could solve that?
Yeah.
You know what? What a crazy notion that is.
Wasn't that what Reagan said? The scariest words to ever hear is, "I'm here from the government. I'm here to help."
Yeah,
right.
Here to help you. Well, also, old Joe has just made another announcement that let's put that graphic up there. I wish the radio folks would see this, but I mean, Joe could be a funny guy. If it wasn't so sad what was going on in the country, he'd be a great stand-up comic. But Joe came out with this tweet that says, and Jose's finding it right now for our Facebook folks, but I'll paraphrase here until he gets that up there. But here it is. I'm pretty close to having verbatim, Matt. Joe announced that at least one noted economist have said that the economy we're living in right now is the best economy that America's had in get ready for the last 50 years. There it is. Oh, here we go. Yeah, now I'm going to read it verbatim here. I got my glasses on. President Biden, there it is, hashtag POTUS, December 29th, 2020, man, he made this declaration. We're ending 2021 with what one analyst described as the strongest first-year economic track record of any president in the last 50 years. Let's keep the progress going. Man, isn't that a locker room talk at halftime to get you ready to go out there and fill up that gas tank with that $5-6 a gallon gasoline, going there and paying that $14 for a little package of bacon, and oh my God. Matt, thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not surprised, and it's funny you mentioned that. I saw even yesterday, I know Barbara Streisand had said that his economic record in the first year is the best in 40 years. The media largely ignores this.
Who said that?
Barbara Streisand.
People loving other people. I guess she said that. Why, do they not, okay. She's one of two things, so politically intoxicated that she can't possibly see the truth when it's right in front of her. Or she just doesn't feel it. She's a rich woman. Maybe she doesn't go get it, probably doesn't pump her own gas. She doesn't probably pay her own bills. Her accountants do, right? Some of these folks get into these positions and they're just, they don't know what normal people are going through. And when you're on a fixed income and gas goes from, $2 a gallon to $5 a gallon, price of milk goes up and your paycheck doesn't go up. And if you're on a fixed income, Social Security and that sort of thing, that doesn't go up. Your pension payment doesn't go up. A little cost of living increase now and then. But again, it begs the question, is anybody checking him and of what he tweets out, what he says? That was the big criticism that the Democrats had on Trump, right? Nobody's there telling him reality. He's out there tweeting all this craziness. And let me ask you flat, who do you think's running? Who do you think has his ear? Let me say, who do you think has his hearing aid?
Hearing aid, I don't know. It's tough because I think it's a collective of people for sure. I know a lot of people have talked about kind of the mob boss being like kind of Nancy Pelosi because she knows kind of pull, but I don't even know who I would say. You would think Kamala, but people don't like Kamala either. But I don't know who in that administration I would particularly. I think it's a team.
I think it's obviously Ron Klain, his chief of staff. But it clearly all roads lead back to this WFL, this woke far left, led by the Squad. They have a reign of terror over this administration, and they felt like these theoretical policies that were so crazy from their inception that anybody that was sane knew that they were destined for failure, like defund the police, that was not going to result in an increase of crime, yet this president supported it. The no cash bail, that somehow that was going to reduce crime. Joe Biden is the one who wrote the crime bill in 1994. He saw what happens when you let people out. Right over here in Fresno, California, folks, over here at the Tower District, Matt, I'm sure you're familiar with it. Even you youngsters have heard about the Mike Reynolds' daughter, Amber. Kimber Reynolds was killed by Joe Davis, a criminal that had been in and out of jail 20-some times. That's how the 1990s were. You couldn't put anybody away. Cops would tell me they would arrest somebody, and before they were done with the paperwork, the guy was walking out laughing at them. And that's where we are now. We know because crime skyrocketed. Random crime. Yeah, random violent crime. So, I don't really blame AOC and Rashida Tlaib, Nalan Omar. I don't blame them. They've been programmed in their universities. They don't have any real life experience. I blame Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and every one of those, Mitt Romney,
milquetoast conservatives,
all those people,
Republicans. We can go on and on.
that know better. They know better than that, and they stayed, if not silent, they sure didn't bark loud enough. Why? Because they were afraid they were going to be called a racist. That they supported Derek Chauvin putting a knee down on the neck of George Floyd, which is absolute nonsense and spineless. You were scared to death you were going to get caught in the fray, and you're going to lose your job and get voted out of office instead of doing the right thing. And we are where we are now. We have streets all over the country, 9 cities seeing crime rates off the charts, in particular violent crime, and in particular that murder. And it's a result of these criminal elements knowing they can do what they want to do. We got Laura on the line. Laura Fisher. How you doing, Laura?
Hello.
Well, hello there, dear. How are you doing? Aren't we so proper?
Well, it's probably because I'm suffering from lack of sleep. But
no, not you. You.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
It's been rough.
Yeah.
We lost one of our SIVs went missing, but
boy. Well,
he escaped, so he's back.
Okay. What you got on your
So
mind?
that's cool. Well, you asked who Matt thought had Biden's ear. They don't have Biden's ear. Biden is just a puppet.
Yep.
When you look at the actual people that are closest to Joe Biden, 14 of them worked for Anthony Blinken at WestExec.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that man is never on TV. That man never makes public statements. He always sends out other people to make his public statements, and that makes me wonder why.
Yeah.
I find that very strange.
Laura,
I mean, think about in previous administrations, not just the Trump administration, but going all the way back, our Secretary of State were always much more visible than Blinken is, which gives me very serious pause. I don't like it anyway,
I know.
still.
I know exactly where you're going with that, and it makes me feel uneasy as well.
When he has that many people embedded in an administration from one company, I mean, we went through this when I researched WestExec. 22 people hold key positions all throughout that government, and then 14 of them are actually sitting in the White House with him, and we never see Blinken. Never see him.
Well, let me ask you this. You, Matt,
very
and,
sketchy.
yes, I do too. Let me ask you this, Laura, Matt, and listeners and viewers. You have President Joe Biden getting ready, well, in the process right now of basically taking on Vladimir Putin, saying, if you not only not invade, if you invade, you're toast. But if you even assemble a certain number of troops, you are going to get a very significant and massive response from the United States of America. Now, think about this, folks. Laura, Matt, and I know, Laura, you've thought about this already. You're way ahead of me on most of these issues. This is the same team. Joe Biden, Anthony Blinken, Lloyd Austin, General Mark Milley, who orchestrated this debacle coming out of Afghanistan. Now, I mentioned earlier on the show, Taliban are vicious people, no doubt about it. But they don't have nuclear weapons. Pakistan does, but they don't as of yet. But you're getting ready to put these incompetent people in terms of executing any military strategy in probably one of the most dangerous times, according to Vladimir Putin, who compared what is going on right now between the United States and Russia to the 1962 missile crisis. I remember that. This is no joke. You're not dealing with some mullah that you can't pronounce his name. You're dealing with Vladimir Putin, who has, by the way, more nuclear weapons by far than we do. And for me, I'm sitting there, folks, on the left, you think that climate change is the existential threat to this country? Yeah, I get it. Climate change, all right. But the most existential threat, the one that threatens our existence, is nuclear weapons and the possibility of nuclear war. And this is getting no attention, Laura, no attention. And I'm like you, it scares me. Go ahead, man.
Can I add this in there?
Absolutely.
And you're talking about, of course,
Scares
Russia,
me to death.
Ukraine, but I guess something that came across my screen, Washington Examiner put out, that China unveils a plan to take over Latin America and their influence in the Western
Yes, they are.
Hemisphere.
They're doing that with BRI with the help of Anthony Blinken's company.
And they talk about
Alan and I talked about this 5 months ago.
Yeah. And let me add this other thing in here. And I'm not one to get into these salty, rumor mills, but just think about this, because I think it is a factor that needs to be considered here. You have this Hunter Biden situation, okay? We don't know where the story's in, these sordid details. It is not being a conspiracy theorist to think that Russia, the Ukraine, China have something on this man. You have Hunter Biden thrown into this mix, which is happening at the Ukrainian border now, with a man, Hunter Biden, who used to serve on Burisma, the board of the Ukraine. Now, is it too much? And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but if they do have something on him saying this guy Zelensky, President Zelensky of Ukraine, saying, look, you better back us up, or that guy, that son of yours, he's going to go to prison because we got him. And here's a president who's already lost one son. You don't tell me there's not a mixture there to have a compromised president with all of that stuff going on, the incompetency of being able to carry out a military situation of this type, and then you have the conflict of having your son intermixed into the Ukrainian government so deep. I mean, it's got. I'm with you, Laura, and listeners. This.
I don't even think it's as complicated as that. I don't think that Joe Biden. I hate to say this, but Joe Biden is merely a figurehead. They used him to dupe people that they knew would not vote for Trump.
Amen.
As I told you before, if anybody else had been in that candidacy, Biden would not be in the White House right now. He has been past his prime for 20 years.
Yes,
He is way outdated. The only appeal that he had was that he would run on being a conservative to moderate Democrat. People voted against Trump, not for Joe Biden. But they knew that. Trust me. Anthony Blinken is not the strategist that they think he is. He's a corporate figurehead who's coming in to make his money. He's the one making these decisions. At the end of the day, what Kamala Harris's staff said about her, I will reiterate. They have all been assigned tasks outside their skill set, and they're going to get us all in a war if we're not careful.
That is my point exactly. Is you know, World War I was started with an assassination of a diplomat. I don't know exactly what happened. But it was something that should not have started a war. But the domino effect. The domino effect began. The tit for tat began. The next thing you know, you have a world war. So much could go wrong with this standoff. One skirmish. You know, we have troops over there. They're not armed, you know, in Ukraine. We're giving them weapons and that sort of thing. But something gets out of hand, and there's a hot war that breaks out between the Ukraine and the Soviet Union in that region, of which I'm still trying to find out, Laura, Matt, listeners, what is our strategic interest in that? Ukraine's not part of NATO. Why are we drawing a line saying we're willing to incinerate the planet, if need be, to protect the Ukraine? I don't understand this.
I'm more isolationist in my opinion, because I know we've been takeless,
but here I think
I'm very much leaning toward. But like I said, I think the best decision for the American people is not getting entangled. I think that was the one positive about Trump, was starting no foreign wars. Nobody talks about them.
But I think that what they're doing, and this is just my opinion, because so many people have been so critical of Biden's strategy, if you want to even call it. Don't even get me started on Afghanistan. I got to move on to something else. But anyway, you know, that's a triggering point for me.
Right.
But it was so bad, and it was done so poorly and so cowardly, spinelessly, and chaotically, that I really think this is nothing more than a PR stunt to show that he's a big, strong president, and it's going to backfire like nobody's ever seen.
Well, again, that's my fear, and believe me,
this is how they think.
I agree with you, and believe me, I'm not one to say, "Hey, let's go find something else to stress us about." I'm not one of those guys. I'm far from it. We need to find the positive sign in this COVID situation. We're moving out of it. We're going to come together, stay together, work together as a country. We're going to find our way through this political, we're in. But this thing here that's brewing that nobody's really paying attention to, I don't believe, is potentially catastrophic. And if it's not taken seriously as it should be, and we understand that Joe Biden is the most ill-prepared, if ever there was a time where you have to protect our country from its leadership, it's now.
Well, I know this sounds a little far out, but my cousin that I referenced in the climate initiative, the physicist and aerospace engineer, he and I were having a conversation about this last night, and he told me that he felt, in his opinion, that there was not so much with Hunter Biden, but that there were some shady things that went on under the Obama administration, and that the Democrats are going to do anything and everything in their power to preserve his legacy. Because let's be honest, Barack Obama was the initial cult of personality in political parties. People didn't vote for a Democrat. They voted for Barack Obama. And we saw it in 2016. It even became more polarized. People became obsessed with this cult of personality. That's what you're still seeing with Trump. He's not all that great, really. if you really, really analyze the guy, he's not that great.
Well, here's
and
I've never said
just the same as Hillary.
You know,
was anything to write home about.
Yeah.
But people were were just absolutely. I thought I was at a damn Beatles concert when I was watching people at her rally crying and carrying out. It's like, what is wrong with you people?
Well, to me, we have to separate this whole thing. You talk about the cult of personality. That I'm just one of those old school guys. You know, Richard Nixon, he couldn't get elected today because not because of him, lying. It would be just take him out of there, just the way he looked, the way he communicated, but he had substance to his policies. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Hold on a second. But you look at Trump's policies, and there is tremendous substance there, especially when you compare it to the Obama policies. Having a secure border, being energy independent.
Is that there are other Republicans who can still enact the same policy.
They didn't step up.
It's not about the man; it's about the policy.
But
that's the problem.
I don't know any Republican that would have taken on the press like he took them on, and that needed to happen. Did he go too far?
Ron DeSantis.
Absolutely. Well, DeSantis.
I live in Florida.
Yeah, but DeSantis.
I see it every day. I see him a whole lot more than you do.
You know,
and let me tell you something. That man has press conferences every single day.
Did you hear the top of the show? Did you hear yesterday's show? I talked about supporting DeSantis, but again, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Absolutely, I think Trump could be his own worst enemy, no doubt about that. But I got to separate from the policies. And DeSantis, as you know, because you live there, barely won election there in Florida. It was a very close election. He has since established himself. He was in no position to go out and say, I'm going to give you my presidential aspirations. Well, I'm trying to establish myself. Exactly. Exactly. Did you? If you heard yesterday's show.
Something, a poll that was done on Channel 9 News last week, 62% of Democrats in the state of Florida agree with the way DeSantis has handled the COVID
I agree
crisis.
with you. Did you hear yesterday's show, Monday's show?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm with you. I think that Ron DeSantis should be the nominee in 2024. And my personal preference is they find some way to lure Condoleezza Rice out as vice president. I know that's probably going to send you up the wall, but I think that's a very, very strong ticket.
I think she's very sensible. I think she's very smart. Ron DeSantis isn't strong in foreign policy. She is.
Yeah, I think you got to move on, Pitt.
He's a lot smarter than Donald Trump, let me tell you.
Well, listen, should we take, Laura, you have always, as you always do, you've livened up this show. Appreciate you so much. We're going to take a quick break, and we come back. We have a few more minutes left in the Alan Autry No Retreat. I'm not going to retreat, and I know Laura isn't going to retreat, and I know you're not either. We'll be right back. All right, we can go anytime you're ready. Well, we got 5 minutes left, Jose.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX.
And welcome back to Alan Autry No Retreat Tuesday. And boy, lively discussions the last 2 days, and I like that. That's what America's all about, is sitting down and talking about things and discussing things and have some debate on things and sometimes some heated debate. It's what this country is founded upon. I think we can do that without getting personal and calling names, and hopefully we walk the talk on this show in that regard. Before we go, God, I got 4 minutes. I got to touch on this. I promised to myself that I would get this in somehow. Did you see the new Jose IRS? Oh, by the way, Matt White had to go deal with some business. He didn't walk off the show enough. We knew we only had him for a while there. He's a fine young man, and if he's an indication of the future of this country, we're in good hands with people like young people like Matt White. But Jose, did you see the new IRS guidelines for filling out your tax forms? It's folks, this is from the Department of. You think you've heard it all. I thought for sure this was a joke when I saw this. And Jose is trying to find the graphics that I sent him. So Facebook folks will be able to see this for real. You folks that are listening, may think that I just this is some conspiracy thing from the far left or right or wherever, because it's so bizarre. But it's true. The IRS has issued some new guidelines.
It's on your screen.
And it's up there right now. You can see it on the screen, where you have to report any stolen goods that you have. If you go out and knock off a Walgreens and you haul off, less than $940 worth of merchandise, they won't arrest you, but the IRS will come and get you if you don't declare it on your income tax. I am totally serious about this, folks. Oh, my gosh. Where do I begin?
Hey, but you got to know that they ask, please.
Yes. Oh, Jose wanted to correct me that the IRS, being the gentle, kinder IRS, did say, please make sure you report it. Also, if you're a drug dealer, illegal drug dealer, you had to report your income from all of your little drug dealers that are running around and report back to you. You've got to, and give you money, you've got to report that, or the IRS is gonna come after you. Which I'm looking at this going, it reminds me of the time that the government, the FBI, had a party, a so-called party, where they were going to give away free Super Bowl tickets. And the FBI had a list of all of these felons that had warrants out for the rest. They couldn't find them. But they sent it to the last known address. And there's like hundreds of people showed up to this party to get their free Super Bowl tickets, and they were promptly arrested and sent off behind bars. Maybe that's what the IRS has going on.
So when you report your taxes, what is there going to be like a little box that says stolen goods amount, or
you mean they're going to itemize the deductions? They'll probably have them itemize their deductions. Okay, let's see. A bottle of Head and Shoulders, $3.50. Oh gosh, let's see, a little stereo equipment, $450. Oh gosh, that's enough. It wasn't so sad. It would be funny, but this is actually true. Like I said, you can see the graphic, you on Facebook, over it would be my right shoulder looking at it. But oh my goodness, the world we live in. Oh boy. Well, we'll be following this story for you. We'll make sure, and if you're out there, remember our little public service to all you thieves out there. Make sure you get a good accountant. I think H&R Block, is giving a deal for thieves. You can come in, and they just ask that you don't rip off the office before you leave. Folks, thank you for being with us. Thank you, listeners on Facebook, or viewers on Facebook, rather. Listeners on radio, all you folks, I just love you so much. Thank you all. God bless you. Good Lord willing, creek don't rise. I'm going to get the honor and privilege to do this again tomorrow. Bye-bye now.
Who cares about the clouds if we're together?
All right, Facebook folks, I got a haul. I'm supposed to be home an hour ago.